Hey guys, CJ here. So I ended up creating Bag End and Hobbiton from the Hobbit and the Lord of the Ring movies and they were obviously based off of the books by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I love Tolkien. I absolutely adore the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books, movies, everything I could get my hands on for it. That includes Samandril. I think that's the name of that book, where it's the history of it and how all of it became history, and I just love the entire idea. Like when there's those stupid quizzes, like where would you go as a fictional place, and the options are usually like, Middle Earth, which is, Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. You have Hogwarts. You have, the Hunger Games districts, all kinds of different options. While I love Hogwarts and that area and all that, I honestly would probably pick, at least for a while, I would totally pick Middle Earth. Like, I'm not even kidding. I know it'd mean death for me, but I love it so much. And so I wanted to make this build, and it took forever. Like 3 actual days of building, off and on, but 3 days of building. And I ended up shortening it down to 3 build videos, 3 speed build videos. This first one is about 22 minutes and 30 seconds. Like, it's a really long time. And I know y'all are going to get real tired of my voice by the end of it, but it's a lot of detail. I used set pictures. I used information that I could find from the books. I used a diagram showing the actual inner outline of the house. And I tried to make it as realistic as I could, considering the fact that it's Sims and not everything is the same. And the fact that as you can see on the video, I used a custom content door, but I changed that. So I didn't use custom content in the end. All of this is legitimately regular game stuff. It's not base game. I have all the packs except for, I currently have all the packs except for whichever one is with the nice clothing. Late night party clothes, whatever it is. And I think maybe one other, the bowling pack. I don't have the bowling pack either, but those are the only ones. So everything else I was able to use. I made sure to use debug a lot, because that's how I ended up having to use the food in the pantry. Like, I created a massive pantry because hobbits have their big pantries. In the Hobbit movie and the book, dwarves come in and completely ransack that pantry, and all the food and all the wine, and it's all gone. So I wanted to create a pantry, which you will see next video, actually, where I build it. Because currently, I'm doing the outside stuff in this video. The majority of this video is creating the outside design, and it's very basic. It's a lot of creating it to look like a hill, which took forever. And I didn't put a lot of seating because the Bagginses were not personable people. They don't like people. Bilbo especially did not like people. That's literally why he wanted to run away from his family in the Fellowship of the Ring. Like, duh. He doesn't like people. The only people he's ever liked are the dwarves, Gandalf, and Frodo. That's about it. So, and yes, I could talk at length on The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I am so big on it. Like, they do those quizzes where you could, like, pick which fictional place you'd rather live. And out of Hogwarts, out of Middle Earth, out of the districts, out of the Divergent time period, all kinds of different things. I would honestly pick Middle Earth. Because while I love Hogwarts, I'm a Hufflepuff for life. Hand down. But I would just flat out do Middle Earth. Because there was so much more magic. So much more. And there was all these amazing creatures and people. And it was just a very interesting time. And they had plumbing, so I wouldn't be missing plumbing. They had some technology, so I would have that. Like, I wouldn't have computers or anything, but back then, it didn't really matter. The only thing I would be worried about is medical stuff. And yeah, that's a concern, but you're friends with the wizard, it doesn't matter. So, anyway, I have always said I would choose Middle Earth first. And that's just it. The love of this stuff came when I was a kid and on my way to church camp, thanks to my aunt, when I was little, maybe about 10, 11. And we listened to The Hobbit on tape, which I'm still not a big listening to books person because if I'm not reading it, I'm not catching all the stuff in it, like at all. And I'll space out. That's my problem. I would love to be able to sit in the car and just listen to books. I just can't. I cannot focus. It's gone. If it's not in front of me, it's gone. That's the same way with me taking notes. I have to have it in front of me and me writing it down. Otherwise, I'm done. And even me teaching. More than likely, if I'm not writing it down, I'm not going to remember all of it. So it's a bit of a challenge for me, and so I had to learn from that. But anyway, back to the story. So we were listening to the book on tape, and so I got really interested in it, and when I got back from church camp, I went and got the book from the library and read it and fell in love. Like, love. I obviously read more books before this time period, but Hobbit was the first book I actually remember reading. Like, remember reading. I remember when I started, how I felt, all those things. I remember reading that book for the first time. That was my first book I can remember from memory. So it holds a special place in my heart that I really adore. And then, of course, from that came Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King. Fantastic books. A lot of sadness and death, but that's kind of what happened. Like, it's what happened. And then you have... Alright, I'm not going to pronounce this right. Silmarillion? Silmarillion, maybe. Where it's the history of how Middle-earth came to be the Middle-earth we know in The Hobbit and everything. And it's just... It's a good book, too. But if you're not paying attention, those names will confuse you and you are lost for a while. Like, through the rest of that book, you are lost if you are not paying attention to the names and what's going on. So, but anyway, and then the movies. The movies came around. Of course, we had the Lord of the Rings movies long before the Hobbit movies, which, that's okay. Loved the Lord of the Rings movies. They stuck pretty close to the books, which is fantastic. They couldn't do exact in a lot of things because that's not technically possible. But Peter Jackson, I believe, my brain is fuzzy right now because I just got home from an 8-hour trip. Anyway. It was absolutely... I am so sorry. As you can see, I'm just still really tired. But I believe Peter Jackson was the one who created it. And, it was so good. And Sir Ian McKellen being in it as Gandalf. Oh my god. Just so many things were done so well with it. Frodo was perfect. Legolas was perfect. Aragorn was perfect, which was Viggo Mortensen. Legolas was Orlando Bloom. Frodo Baggins was... His name just escaped me. He looks like Daniel Radcliffe, but he's not. Yeah. My name's still... It's still blank into my head. Someone's gonna correct me at some point. Anyway, I just really loved it, and I will sit and watch them if given the chance. I can't always do it because they're really long. They're like almost 3 hours long, and so you got 9 hours right there sitting and watching movies, which I can only do on certain days. I could do it in the summer if I wasn't busy trying to get my classroom put together and I hadn't just gotten back from a trip. So, but anyway, I love it. I will watch it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And then The Hobbit came out. And I love The Hobbit too. So much. There's problems with it, of course, because they brought in Legolas, who wasn't actually in the book. He really wasn't. But I understand why they brought him in, because they wanted to make it very familiar to the people who saw Lord of the Rings and were brought in from the Lord of the Rings franchise to watching The Hobbit. So I understand why they did it. It's very confusing. And then they bring the girl, whose name is escaping me too, currently, who's the love interest and is causing all kinds of problems. She's the love interest for Legolas and the love interest for Keely. And Keely and his brother have issues. And it's just, she's an elf, and God forbid an elf and a dwarf love each other. Ugh. It's adding too much unnecessariness, in my opinion, because Keely was so good in the books. It was so horrible and sad, and it didn't need a love interest for you to feel that emotion in the books. Like, that's my personal opinion. So I do have some problems with the movies, and I have to admit it took me forever to watch the third movie. Like, I saw the Unexpected Journey, and I saw Desolation of Smaug. It is Smaug, not Smog. Smaug. Fairly quickly after they came out, but I did not see the Battle of Five Armies for a very long time because I knew what was going to happen. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, haven't read the books, the entire Durin family dies. And it is horribly depressing. Just, I cry. But anyway, so I'm really very much a fan of the books and the movies and the fandom of Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien's world. I love it. So, anyway, I'm currently on the inside of the house. You saw me sketch out roughly the areas, the rooms. They will change slightly, but the placement will be about the same. At some point, I'll shrink them. That's probably going to be in the third part, because I hope I mentioned this. If not, I'm just rambling. I did end up having to split this build into 3 parts, so bear with me. But I really enjoyed this build, even if it was horrendous undergoing in that it was so much to do. Now, as you might have noticed, I put 2 ovens there, 2 stovetops, and I used it may be a base game one. The one that has the logs under it just felt older, because they do have some stoves and things at that time, and of course the table fits 12 actually, with Gandalf standing in the corner, because like he usually does, because he doesn't really sit down until they finally find a chair outside the area and pull it in as a stool. So I had to fit that in a 13-person table. Anyway, back to the kitchen. So I had the stoves as 2 because hobbits cook a ton. They love food. They eat like 8 meals a day, if I remember correctly. Like, they love food. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Food is their thing. So I had to make it to where Bilbo, or Frodo, who ends up getting the home after Bilbo leaves to Rivendell secretly slash dies from old age, I believe. Nope. I'm wrong. I've been talking for forever about being a nerd about it. He goes to the islands with the elves at the end of the Return of the King. And it's supposed to be kind of like a path to death without the death. Like it means you're immortal, or I don't know. I'm really sorry for all the yawning. Anyway, so Frodo ends up with the house, and then I'm pretty sure he leaves it with Samwise Gamgee and his family because Frodo joins Bilbo to the Undying Islands. So, yeah. This is... Of course, I didn't make the Hobbit family or anything for this build. I just grabbed a random person to test out some of this stuff. But this is still me trying to make it as true to the movies and the books that I can. Like, the pantry is massive, as you can tell. It's being built right now. I try to make the shelves kind of like wooden, even though they're not. But there's not a wooden shelf pantry larder type thing. There's a lot of boxes on the floor for food. There's going to be food all over the shelves, produce all over the shelves in a few moments. You saw me build part of the winery area. There's going to be a couple more additions, but hobbits like their drink. Mead, wine, all kinds of stuff like that. Usually wine for the hobbits, because especially the Bagginses, they like the finer things in life. So, anyway, I got that as much as I could in there. I try to add some variety in the pantry, try to make it as realistic as possible, that it was almost filled to the brim, but theoretically could still be walked in. So that was my goal, and I tried to separate the wine area so that it looked like it could be cooler, set off to the side. I, of course, changed the lights because I wanted this to not have any electricity in it. There may be some that I accidentally stuck in without meaning to, but the lights changed to candelabras. The lights in the bedrooms are candles. I don't use a microwave, but I use a fridge. And there wasn't anything I could do about that. I would like to picture it as those old ice chest areas they have, because obviously they did have something in the Middle Earth like that. They had it in real world past where you could just grab a block of ice from someone selling ice, put it in a box type thing, like a contained area, and it'd keep your food cold and would survive. So that's what I was trying to do. So the majority of this house is off the grid, as much as I could get. If you want to remove the fridges, because there's going to be two, there's two stoves, if you want to remove them, please do so. I don't blame you. So, anyway, I'm filling up the shelves right now, trying to find all the stuff that's food that I can put up on the shelves. And there's a lot of stuff I had to use move objects on, so make sure you have move objects turned on if you, take this house. Move objects is necessary. And I'm trying to, and these are obviously debug items. They're difficult to find. I had to turn on all the stuff to find them, search show all and had show hidden objects, and it just there's so much. I couldn't find everything, but I tried to find enough that I could use that would make it generally look like a full pantry. So that was my goal. I just wanted it to be realistic in that, hey, there's someone that lives here that likes food a lot, and they use a lot of it. Use a lot of it. And I think I did pretty good, honestly. I could have done better if I used CC, but once again, I was trying very hard to make this CC proof. Like, I changed the door later. Anything else I may have added that's CC, I changed. Like, it's all changed. Because I wanted it to be able to go on the gallery, no questions asked, and people enjoy it without having to worry about downloading anything, and so people can find it. It was hard for me to not use CC because I really do enjoy using CC because I'm able to create more interesting shapes and builds by using CC. Same with my Sims, Create a Sim. By using CC, it's more interesting. But for gallery, I don't want to do that. So, anyway, I took out that third shelf because it was a little too tall, the third level of shelves, because it was a little too tall, that it didn't look realistic that someone could reach up and grab something because it looked like they'd need a ladder, and I definitely did not include a ladder or anything. You don't even have ladders inside The Sims 3. So, anyway, I'm adding the finishing touches to the stuff on the shelves for the most part, adding a bit more. I'm doing the lights right now. I think most of this video was mostly about me creating the outside, which took forever. And I do add this and that near the end. But, I mean, Bilbo doesn't really have much on his land because he doesn't want visitors. So there's only a seat for him. So, anyway, and then I outlined, sketched out the things, start trying to do walls. We don't have an exact replica of the wall paint that was done in the movie, but I did something quite similar. But anyway, I don't have any screenshots at this because I forgot to do them of me in the middle of the build. But I have screenshots at the end of part 3 when you want to see it. But I do hope you enjoyed watching this and me blather on about my love for Lord of the Rings and Hobbits for a while there, and J.R.R. Tolkien, who was a fantastic writer, and the fact that he was best friends with C.S. Lewis, just perfect. So, anyway, the video is about done. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. CJ out. Bye!